Are you ready for the final video of 2020? Let's start. Hello guys, one more time and welcome to Ring Royalty. My name is Alexis, as you already know, and today we have the final video of the year, and it is going to be my top 10 of the best women's wrestler of the year. 2020 was a shitty year, but in wrestling we had some good moments as well. And today we're going to count down the 10 most important women in wrestling according to moi. Let's remember that this is just my opinion, so I'm gonna tell you in advance to leave down in the comments what's your top 10 favorite women or best women of 2020. Without any further to say, let's start with this final video. Number 10, I'm going to put Candice Lee, the Poison Pixie. I think Candice Lee had an amazing year ever since she turned heel. I feel like she used to be Gargano's wife and that was about it, and she didn't shine as much except for rivalries or storylines that were connected to her husband. But this year she definitely stood up by herself and showed everyone that she's a great wrestler. This Poison Pixie gimmick I think is very fitting. It's like a Disney evil character and it fits with her persona. I'm so glad that she finally found what is working for her in NXT, because people that watch the indie wrestling already knew that Candice Lee was great, but in NXT she was missing the flavor. So I'm glad that she found it. Even though she didn't win the NXT Women's Championship this year, we have to highlight her two awesome matches with Io Shirai, especially the TLC match at Halloween Havoc. It was a spectacular match. She took some crazy bumps. I mean, props for her. Let's not forget that she led the way to War Games and her team actually won the match when she broke her arm or injured her arm. So she's willing to do whatever it takes to put on a great show, and that must be respected. So for that reason and the way that she found her character and is now one of the most important women in NXT, she deserves to be in this top 10, at least in my view. Let's move to number 9. When it comes to number 9, we were talking about characters with Candice Lee Poison Pixie gimmick, but this girl not only found her character, but she's killing her current role. Maybe not in ring wise, but character wise, she is probably the most relevant woman in the whole roster right now, and I'm talking about Alexa Bliss. The reason why Alexa is not higher on the list is because the first half of the year she was basically floating around the tag team division, and even though she won with Nikki Cross the tag team championships at WrestleMania, there wasn't anything that memorable. The match was very good, but it wasn't spectacular, and you already know my opinion about WWE's women's tag team division. They have no direction for it, so I mean it would be pointless to even talk about it now. But the thing is, ever since her alliance with The Fiend, which I really was doubting at the beginning, I mean, she proved me wrong, and I love when people prove me wrong. She's killing her current role. She's currently involved in men's storylines, but that doesn't take the spotlight away from her. And this reminds me back in 2012 when AJ Lee was involved in only men's storylines, but all the attention and spotlight was drawn to her rather than the women's division. I think this is something that is happening with Alexa Bliss. Probably besides Sasha and Bayley feud, ever since this Fiend storyline started, Alexa have been the main women in the whole roster, so she definitely deserves a spot here too. In ring wise, I don't really remember anything that was remarkable from 2020 when it comes to Alexa Bliss performance. Maybe the Royal Rumble performance when she entered at number 1, that would be about it. But character wise, she's definitely one of the best WWE has at the moment. Let's move to number 8. In number 8, I'm going to put someone that a lot of people dislike, but she's definitely one of the top stars in Raw at the moment, and I'm talking about Shayna Baszler. So, Shayna Baszler lost the NXT Women's Championship in December of 2019, and everybody was expecting her to arrive to the main roster to win a championship, a singles one, may I say, and that hasn't happened yet. However, she started her year by eliminating 7 other competitors in the Royal Rumble match in January, and then her arrival to the main roster was well done, I guess, until WrestleMania. She blindsided and then bit Becky Lynch's neck. then proceed to destroy everyone in the Raw roster to win the Elimination Chamber match and be the #1 contender for the Raw Women's Championship at WrestleMania. She lost to Becky, and I think that hurt her momentum, but then again, she kind of like bounced back ever since Team Shania appeared and her and Nia Jax became this unstoppable force in the tag team division. I don't really like that team, and I don't really get why WWE decided to put Nia and Shayna in a team for so long. I'm glad they lost the championships now, but that being said, Shayna Baszler was a major star on Raw, and she was basically destroying everyone along with Nia Jax because both of them are dominant females. So Shayna Baszler was one half of the tag team champions. I mean, it's not what everyone expected because Shayna looks more like a singles competitor rather than a tag team competitor, but I guess we'll get the singles run in the future. She definitely is very unique in the ring. I love her submissions, and the way she manipulates the joints is something that makes her stand out. I haven't seen any other women do what Shayna does in the ring. And she's a brawler, she's not a high flyer. So some people consider her boring, but in my view, she's a great technical wrestler, and she definitely is one of the highlights of Monday Night Raw in 2020. Spot number 7, I'm going with another NXT superstar, and this time is Rhea Ripley. So she had an amazing year. She started the year as NXT Women's Champion, and she had some amazing matches this year. She had her WrestleMania match with Charlotte Flair, her match at TakeOver Portland against Bianca Belair, her Steel Cage match against Mercedes Martinez, and recently her match against Io Shirai for the NXT Women's Championship. So she has been delivering inside the ring, but she has also established herself as probably one of the most popular women in the whole NXT roster. We all know that the NXT women are probably the best division that we have in wrestling today, but Rhea Ripley managed to become such a prominent force in such a little time, so that needs to be highlighted. I'm still not happy about Rhea losing the title to Charlotte, but then again, I mean, she could bounce back, and I think it also helped Rhea because she proved that she doesn't need the NXT championship or a title just in general to be a star. She has been delivering every single pay-per-view, every single weekly show. She has proven that the quality of her matches are nearly always amazing, and that she is a strong character that could help elevate the division too. So that's amazing. She's also a great seller, we need to say that, because she's one of the best currently. I'm a little bit scared of what's going to happen with her when she moves to the main roster, but for now, we can relax as she's still an NXT superstar, and I definitely see a bright future for Rhea Ripley in 2021. Spot 6, and I'm going with the only woman in this list that is not from WWE, and I'm going to choose Diona Perez. We all know that Diona Perez was an NXT superstar, but she was a jobber all her time with WWE. She jumped ships to Impact Wrestling, and now she's a 2-time Knockouts champion and has delivered some of my favorite matches of the year. Her Knockouts title match against Jordynne Grace at Slammiversary, the Iron Women match against Grace 2, and her unsanctioned match against Su Yung at Turning Point are 3 of my favorite matches of the year. Diona Perez, the virtuosa, has shown everyone why she is one of the most, if not the most amazing technical wrestlers in the planet today. And it's so awesome because her story is a clear representation of what a wrestler should be. WWE sometimes is not the place to go. And she proved that if you work hard, you're gonna get something back, even though it's not in the place you originally wanted to be. I also like her finishers, the Venus to My Love, that double armbar, and the Cosa Nostra that is a brutal pile driver. I think she has stepped up her game when it comes to in-ring skills, but I'm not sure about that now that I think about it. Maybe she was always this good, but we just couldn't see it because she had no TV time to show it back in NXT. So in 2020, from a nobody or a jobber in WWE to the most important knockout in Impact Wrestling, that is definitely a glow up, and that is definitely worthy of a spot in the top 10 of this year. The spot number 5, in the middle of this list, I'm going to put Charlotte Flair. Woo! So Charlotte Flair, probably a lot of people watching right now hate her. I know, but we have to admit that she had a great 2020. Despite being injured for 6 months, her first half of 2020 was spectacular. She won the Royal Rumble, defeated Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania to win the NXT Women's Championship for the second time in her career. She was working Raw, SmackDown, and NXT just 3 weeks before going out because of an injury. So she has done it all, and she recently came back at TLC. I'm going to leave my review over here if you haven't watched it yet, to become tag team champions with Asuka and become a Grand Slam champion too. Because she finally won the only championship that WWE had left. Charlotte was definitely another one, along with Shayna Baszler, that I consider is a singles competitor. It's very difficult to see Charlotte in a team, but I guess they just put her with Asuka to make her a Grand Slam champion and to have that accolade in her resume. But what else can you say? I mean, love her or hate her, she's one of the best performers WWE has had in years when it comes to women's division, and that is undeniable. I already talked about that when it comes to overrated females in the video over here. I'm going to leave that over there so you can watch it, but Charlotte Flair is just one of a kind. I think the greatest of all time, despite love interest Stratus, but she's definitely the greatest of all time, and she deserves to be on this list. This wasn't her best year, but the only reason it wasn't is because she was out 6 months. If not, probably this could have been one of the best years for Charlotte's career. So we were talking about Charlotte being one half of the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, and now we have to talk about the other half, because spot number 4 goes to Asuka. Anyway, so Asuka right now, the double champion, has made a lot of history in 2020. She has been a workhorse. When the pandemic started, she was working her ass off in Raw and SmackDown, trying to keep the division alive. And she definitely deserves the recognition because she's an amazing performer. She's one of my favorite superstars in the current roster. However, the reason why Asuka is not higher, despite being a Grand Slam champion, won the Raw Women's Championship twice, also being Miss Money in the Bank 2020, and being the current Raw Women's Champion and Women's Tag Team Champion, is that her reigns hasn't been that special. And it really hurts me to say this because I love Asuka and she deserves to be seen as one of the best, but WWE has done a poor job in building Asuka as a credible champion in both of her reigns. If we think about this, her only relevant time was when she was facing Bayley and Sasha for the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships. But besides that, she didn't really have any remarkable rivalries. There hasn't been anything special. She is great in the ring, we're not going to deny that. Her match against Sasha Banks at SummerSlam was one of the best matches of the year in my book, but then again, that's about it. I also think we can add her match against Becky Lynch at the Royal Rumble earlier this year because it was also a really great match. The problem with Asuka has been that she has been involved in many title opportunities, and sometimes I think she was on the screen way too much, and some people got a little bit tired of her. I mean, she has been fighting for the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championship as well as the Tag Team Champions during 2020. So it's been a little bit too much. But then again, she made a lot of history and she's probably going to do bigger and better things next year. So I'm hoping to see the Asuka that we knew back in NXT next year, and I'm really going to congratulate her because she did really good for what she was given. Spot number 3, another NXT superstar, and this time I'm going with the current NXT Women's Champion, Io Shirai. Probably one of the greatest NXT Women's Champions of all time. I mean, she's another superstar that has just an unbelievable talent inside the ring. She can do it all. She had so many great matches as champion so far. Her match against Dakota Kai, her matches against Candice Lee, her match against Rhea Ripley, and even her performance at War Games was very remarkable. She's not only entertaining, but she's creative with what she does in the ring. She's a risk taker, she's a high flyer, but she can do submissions as well. She's definitely the full package. Io Shirai has always been a fan favorite, but now I think she has established herself so well in the NXT Women's Division that as soon as she drops the title, I think WWE is going to want to move her up to the main roster, which once again could be, you know, something to worry about. But for now, she's still the NXT Women's Champion. Her reign has been more interesting than Rhea's or Shayna's. I'm still waiting a title defense against Toni Storm, Raquel Gonzalez, or even Ember Moon. I know all of those potential matches could be bangers because, like I said before, most of the women in the NXT roster, for not saying everyone, are just unbelievable performers. So Io Shirai, definitely the standout and the women of the year in NXT in my book, and definitely deserving of this third spot in the top 10. Alright, so we move to number 2. I'm pretty sure you know who the first 2 spots are going to be, but you don't know the order probably. So, oh my god, this is going to be so difficult and probably some people are gonna bash me for it. For number 2, I'm choosing Bayley. The longest reigning SmackDown Women's Champion in history, had such an amazing year, and she deserves to be in this position. I mean, she carried the whole SmackDown Women's division for a while. She was one of the most entertaining women in the whole roster this year when it comes to her run with Sasha Banks as the golden role models. They were slaying every promo, every match. They were just doing everything right. She has also broken some records with the SmackDown Women's Championship. I was not a big fan of her title reign, to be honest, until her feud with Sasha Banks, where she lost the title. But the build up to it was so great, and her Hell in a Cell match with Sasha is match of the year in my estimation. It was so perfect, and one thing that you cannot argue with is the fact that Bayley has grown so much as a heel. It is so incredible. When she started, it was so dull, and now she's at the peak of her career, and probably the heel turn was something that nobody expected Bayley could pull off, but it is something that she shut a lot of haters up by slaying. Because along with Sasha, they were annoying heels. Yeah, they were very annoying, but Bayley hadn't reached this level of viciousness until she betrayed Sasha Banks, demolished her in that attack, and after that, she literally became one of my favorite heels in the roster. And she has enough star power now to elevate other women in the division, as she's currently having a side feud with Bianca Belair, and it would be so beneficial to have her in the SmackDown roster helping some other newcomers out. Highlights from Bayley's 2020 could be her match against Asuka at SummerSlam, the Hell in a Cell match for sure. She also had a nice showing in the 5-way elimination match against Sasha, Tamina, Naomi, and Lacey. So maybe it wasn't the most interesting title reign ever, but she definitely made some history. She was a double champion as well, SmackDown and Tag Team Champions at the same time. So there's nothing else to say. She really made some history and carried most of the women's division during 2020. Okay, and we're finally here. Spot number 1, I think we all know who is going to be by now, and that is Boss Time, because Sasha Banks is the first one in my list. I guess it's obvious, but I'm going to mention the reasons. I mean, bear with me. First of all, Sasha Banks has been the only woman to hold basically all the main roster gold this year. She won the Tag Team Championships on SmackDown, then she won the Raw Women's Championship on Raw, and then she won the SmackDown Women's Championship at Hell in a Cell. She has had many great matches, and she literally can work with anyone on the roster, make them look good, which also helps everyone because you have only good matches when both parties look good, not only one side. When it comes to matches, she had her historic Hell in a Cell match with Bayley, but she had so many other great matches. I mean, let's remember some of them. When she defended the title against Bayley on SmackDown, her recent match against Carmella at TLC, her SummerSlam match with Asuka, her Survivor Series match with Asuka, which wasn't the greatest, but is still pretty good. And literally, Sasha Banks can have a great match with anyone because she changed her in-ring style from high flyer to technical wrestler to powerhouse, depending who she's facing. So that is something that I haven't seen much women done before, and that makes Sasha Banks so special. Her character is the best it's ever been ever since her NXT days, and there is nothing that you can tell me Sasha Banks hasn't done right this year. And the most important thing why she's here is because the curse of no title defenses was finally broken. She may have lost her Raw Women's Championship on her first title defense, but the SmackDown Women's Championship is a completely different story. She has already had 2 defenses, one against Bayley and the other against Carmella, so I'm expecting 2021 to be the year of the boss once again, because this year she did it all, and not only she was one of the top heels the first half of the year, but she managed to become the top babyface of the whole company by the end of the year. And that's something that no other woman has done in 2020. Definitely Sasha Banks, the blueprint, the standard, the conversation, is the women wrestler of the year when it comes to 2020. I guess the only thing that is left to say is that 2020 was boss time indeed. Okay, so this was the top 10 best women's wrestlers of 2020 in my opinion. I tried to stay as objective as I can, and I not fully gave you only my opinions, but I also mix it up with some facts. I hope I did a good job, but remember, like I said at the beginning of the video, tell me what is your top 10 down in the comments. And once again, I want to thank you for your support. I mean, everything has been crazy this year. It has been a shitty year, that is completely true, but at least on the bright side, we had some good moments in wrestling. And it's also been crazy for me. We have 8 months already in Ring Royalty, and this channel wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. So thank you very much for that. You have no idea how much it means to me. Thank you very much. It also keeps my mind occupied when I wasn't in a good place sometimes. Because even though for women's wrestling it was a good year, sometimes in our personal life we struggle, and believe me, the struggle is real. But we have to overcome the odds and try to be as positive as we can to keep going. This is everything that I have to say for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to give it a like, maybe subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And this will be it for this year. I'll send everyone a big kiss, but before that, here's my Instagram as always if you want to say anything. Happy New Year to everyone. I really hope and wish that your 2021 is way better than this year, which is not as hard, I believe. So that will be it. Thank you very much and stay safe. Goodbye.